So welcome so much, everyone. Um, for everyone joining us, this is just a little housekeeping before we really jump into the session. There's the dog. Today's webinar will be running for 45 minutes. Your lines are muted in order to eliminate any background noise. For example, I'll be muted after this. Please, if you have questions as we go along, feel free to put them in the Q&A box. We have made sure to bank a certain amount of time at the end of the presentation for your questions. But if something comes up as it's going, I'll be sure to interrupt and ask if I feel like it needs to be there. Otherwise, I'll put it towards the end of the session. And also, this webinar is going to be recorded and will be available on demand, as well as all other sessions on the McGraw-Hill Canada webpage. And with that, we'll move forward one slide. Perfect. So today I have the great esteem of introducing Professor Tracy Lee. Tracy Lee is a supply chain management and business statistics lecturer and course coordinator at Boise State University. Tracy has been teaching supply chain and operations management since 2007 when she started out at the University of Idaho. Most importantly for us today, however, is that Tracy has actually been teaching her courses online since the year 2007. So that's right. Long before this forced online world that we're all living in, Tracy was already in that digital frontier. Things must be going right for Tracy and the online world, as she is currently recognized by the Lauriaga Endowed Fellowship, which recognizes outstanding teaching. In addition to Tracy's many academic pursuits, we are also thrilled that she works with us at McGraw as a subject matter expert, as well as a digital consultant. I guess this is not enough for Tracy because also she has decided to be the editor-in-chief for OM in the News, which is a faculty-run OM-focused blog that delivers articles on everything from lazy boys, raw material shortages, to Pfizer's massive vaccine cold chain. So all of this is just to say how thrilled we are to have Tracy Lee here on the seminar with us today. And with that, I'm going to mute so that dog stays quiet and move things over to you, Tracy.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy. And hi, everyone. Welcome to the session. Thank you so much for taking time to be here today. I appreciate the chance to talk with you. So we're going to address 3 topics in today's session, which is actually really going to be me sharing things I've learned over the years in the areas of how to engage with a variety of learners, how educational technology tools like Connect can help us overcome some teaching challenges, and how a simulation like Practice OM can help students improve their career readiness. I'm going to use my introductory operations management class for an example throughout, and I'll probably use operations management and supply chain management interchangeably at some point. And that's because I've taught at 2 different schools. They called it 2 different things, but 80% of my class stayed the same from one school to the other. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of background on the university where I teach and the type of learners in my classes so that you can see, does this compare with the types of learners you may have? Boise State University is in Idaho, and it's part of the Pacific Northwest in the United States. We're considered a medium-sized public university with about 17,000 undergraduates. 70% of our students are from Idaho. My students are first-generation college students, student athletes from all over the world, international students with varying levels of English fluency. They're traditional aged, or they're married students with kids and full-time jobs. Some of them have learning disabilities. Some are ex-military. Many are older adults taking their first test in 30 years. And a whole heck of a lot of every type of student comes into the class with test anxiety. And they also don't really want to be there because I've had the fortune of teaching only all required classes since I first started teaching, which are required for all business majors, which automatically creates a block for them of, I have to do this. My perspective is if students don't know right away why they should care about this class, then nothing else I do will matter. So I start the first day of the introductory course by establishing why supply chain is exciting and relevant for anyone. And for my online class, I always post an intro video about myself and why I love supply chain. Students get to respond either with a Flipgrid video, or a discussion post. And I have them also find a newspaper article or a video about something recently related to supply chain or operations management, which is interesting and relevant to them. They summarize it, they explain why it interested them, and they share their own past or current experiences in operations, whether that's babysitting or washing cars or stocking shelves, running a restaurant, being an officer in the military, and on and on. Most of them, until that moment, would not have realized that they already have operations management experience. And so Amy and I thought it would be interesting to have you share some of the ways that you've drawn students into your course. We can share with one another our best practices. And I'd love it if in the chat box, and so that everybody can, I think everybody can see it if you post to all participants in the chat box, if you could share, and then Amy will call some of those out since I'm not able to see chat while I'm also presenting. So if you would share, and maybe I'll pick up some tips from you guys on how I can try some new things as well. And if you also do like an intro video or a spiel about why it's exciting, please share if we have that in common. Anything coming through, Amy?
No, but this happened before where everyone was typing at the same time and then a lot
Got it.
came in at
Okay.
once.
All right. Oh, and also let's just make sure you guys can hear me too. I didn't even think to ask that. I normally do. So if somebody wants to type real quick, yes, that you can hear me,
Uh,
just talking
Oh,
into the
so we
void.
have one
Okay.
yes, as I assume they all coming in. So we ask students to create and upload videos that introduce themselves and what their plans
Awesome.
are in the future after graduation.
Oh,
That's
good.
great.
Yeah.
Also confirmation that people can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, someone likes the clip from the founder where they explain the process of McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
That is, yeah. McDonald's actually puts out a lot of fun stuff. They change their processes so fast that sometimes I'm using a video and they're like, but they don't do that anymore if somebody's in the class who works at McDonald's. So, okay, so let's give it just a few more seconds and then we'll move on and to the next slide.
Oh, and some use articles about companies that are trending.
Okay. Absolutely. There's a
Oh, and then
lot about supply chain right now.
and hi Jackie, getting students to think about how invisible supply chain is until something goes wrong.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when the shelves are empty of toilet paper, we suddenly know the word supply chain.
I use a clip from a discrete event simulation of a hospital that he does research in,
Oh,
especially inside the COVID ICU.
oh wow.
That would be
Thank you
very
for,
powerful.
yeah, thank you for the work that you're doing there.
And then the final one we'll take just now so that everyone can relax. They can get students to do video assignments about new trends in supply chain management as well. That's
Okay.
awesome.
So
Really, really good ones, guys.
yeah, right. And a common theme with that is that we're trying to get them to actually see what's happening in the real world that's related to what we're teaching, because then they know that it matters, that it's relevant. So there are a lot of amazing educational technology tools that can help make our jobs of teaching online easier. And there is a learning curve for everything. So I want you to know I didn't start out using all of these tools right away, but in my current course, these are the digital education technology tools that I use the most. And just a brief overview of what I do with them. Panopto is the video hosting provider that our school chose a couple of semesters ago. And that's where my lecture videos are hosted. And I'll talk more about a lot of these things later on in the session. Our learning management system that we're using is Blackboard for now. We're shifting to Canvas next year. I use the Connect platform from I'm actually going to show you my live section in a few minutes. My exams are proctored over ProctorU or Zoom. For videos and streaming, I use Zoom for classes and recording class sessions and office hours. I use Camtasia to make my videos. I use Flipgrid for some discussion posts and the intro videos. I frequently share YouTube videos, great examples there, of course. And I've also gotten a number of great examples from ominthenews.com. So, as Amy shared, I'm the editor. I don't write anything, I edit these great posts that our faculty bloggers send in, and they all include discussion questions and YouTube videos. So, they kind of have done the searching for me. And I can search by chapter from the textbook and see what articles are posted about that topic. So I borrow from there pretty often. Okay, so those are the tools that I use. And now I want to map those over to how the scoring works in my classes so you can see, how I'm engaging with students through lots of different assignment types. So part of the reason that I use so many digital tools is because I want to appeal to different learning styles, which is also why I use a variety of formative assessments. And I want to go over the 5 formative assessment activities I use now, which make up a total of 33% of the grade in the class. Smartbook is what I use to appeal to students who like to learn through reading. The C that's in parentheses, that this is a Connect tool. And if you're not familiar with Smartbook, I'll be showing it to you in a few minutes when we take a look at Connect. The percentage is what percentage is it of the overall grade. So it's 5%. Discussion boards and reflections are useful for students who like to write or talk about their experiences. For audiovisual learners, I've recorded a series of lecture videos for each chapter that I cover, and I try to keep each video under 10 minutes. Chapters have anywhere from 1 to 7 videos per, depending how much content I'm covering. The video is simple because I have to do all my own editing. It's just me talking over PowerPoint slides, kind of like I'm doing right now, but I use a lot of examples and images and minimal text on the slides and not much time per slide. Our video hosting platform is Panopto, as I mentioned, and this platform allows us to embed quiz questions into the videos. So as students are watching, the video will pause, pop up a question, kind of like we're going to use polling in Zoom if it works right, and that checks their understanding of the content. And this interaction increases their engagement with the content. So it's not just passive learning. I also provide partially filled in companion slides for students to fill out as they watch the videos. Now, for students who prefer hands-on learning and games, which is actually a lot of students, I use the Practice OM simulation in Connect. Students run a clothing factory and they get to make decisions, and it gives them a holistic view of operations and supply chain. We could actually have a whole separate webinar on practice operations, and because it's a really fun thing to use. I love that students have access to this simulation as part of Connect, but there's a lot of simulations out there and they can really benefit from using those. And finally, I assign algorithmic problems in Connect for homework to give students lots of practice at working through different types of quantitative problems. The algorithmic part means that each time they work a problem, they get different numbers. I call all 5 of these formative assessments because students can earn the points either through repeated practice or for discussion boards. For example, there's no right or wrong answer. It's whether they engaged with the discussion. The remaining 67% of the grade is from exams, which are summative. I believe in frequent testing. So my students take 4 exams. I'm in the minority for giving that many exams, but I do think that the average proves that it's better, higher frequency is better, at least for this topic. I think it's important to give students choice wherever appropriate and possible, because choice is a powerful way of helping students own their own success. So I have exams proctored online even before the pandemic, and the tests are open for several days so students can choose when to take the test and whether to take it using the proctoring service ProctorU or to take it with me over Zoom. And so I try to find ways to build choice into a class, especially about things where they have some anxiety so that they can feel more of a sense of owning their own destiny. Something else that I've learned about exams and engaging with students have more and more anxiety around exams. And I don't know whether you also see this trend in your area. Uncertainty about how a teacher will test is one factor of test anxiety that is something I can help with by being very clear about what and how to study. So over the years, I've built my course around clear, actionable learning objectives. We're actually going to take a look at Smartbook 2.0, the new Smartbook that actually has drill down learning objectives, which I consider very clear and actionable. And so I'm upfront with students about where they can find what I'm going to test on. Is it in Smartbook? Is it only in the lecture videos? Is it in the practice problems, the Connect algorithmic problems? How do you study? And then I make sure to write my test questions to those learning objectives. So it's a way to hold myself accountable for doing what I said I would do. So I've talked about the various ed tech tools I use. Why don't we hop over to the Connect platform, and I'll actually show you how easy it is to add the 3 types of assignments that I mentioned: homework, Smartbook, and practice OM simulations. And I'll also show you my current live section of the class and how easy it is to check student analytics. And while I'm doing that, while I'm getting set up for that, Amy's going to do a poll, hopefully, and not have you have to watch the boringness of me trying to get everything on my end set up.
Perfect. So I think that I did this right. So we've got the OM in progress polls there. I've got them open up so I can vote right on your screen. The first question is just whether you've seen Connect before. So whether you've used it or not, it doesn't matter. It's just the question's more like, has anyone ever shown it to you? Have you dived in? And then the second question, which people are answering, I love watching the bars change. Which Connect resources are you interested in learning more about? Select all that apply. And so once we've got the totals in there, I'll be able to share that over with you, Tracy.
Okay.
I see they're filling in. Do you see the poll on your screen?
Yeah, it pops up on my screen. I can't see like answers. I can just see the questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, perfect. 100% votes. So of the group we have here, the majority have seen Connect. So we have a couple who haven't seen it at all before, but the majority have, which is great, because then it won't be so scary. And then in terms of the resources that people are really interested in, for sure the simulation has taken the hearts of the group.
Okay.
And then after that, it's almost entirely an even split between instructor resources, test creation, the Smartbook, and algorithmic questions. Really, the gradebook analytics was the one that was less.
Okay. All right.
That's wonderful.
Good.
Thank you so much for participating in the poll.
Absolutely. So I'm going to click the close button. Oh, you did. So perfect. All right. Can everybody see my screen for my Connect homepage? If somebody could say yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So what I've done is I have a blank course shell. It's not blank entirely. I have one module set up in there because I'm actually in the 13th US edition of Stevenson right now, which doesn't have Smartbook 2.0, and I'm rolling to the 14th in the fall. So I'm going to show you my live course, but in order to show you Smartbook 2.0, I wanted to be in the new version. And so you can actually, of course, check out any of the McGraw-Hill textbooks in Connect as well by adding a book to your account. And so this section here, let's take a look at my supply chain 301. That's the course number for us. And I had already set up a module, and gosh, that's really tiny. So let's see if that helps. Okay, so I'd already set up a module just to show the 3 types of assignments that I talked about that are for points in the class: Smartbook Chapter 3, and I think, yeah, right. So Smartbook Chapter 3 homework, and then a practice OM module is in here. And what I wanted to do is to show you, number one, how easy it is to add the assignment types. And then we'll look at what are the other resources that, like, where do you find instructor resources? And then that might be the point at which we switch over to my live course. We'll look at the student view of Smartbook. So because that's really, it's the student view of Connect is quite different from the faculty facing view of Connect. So let's first take a look at how to add a Smartbook assignment. So I click on Add Assignment and then Smartbook 2.0. And then it's going to take me to a screen with lots of choices. So this is going to be a new assignment, and it lets me select as many chapters as I want, which is really new because before it's 1 chapter per assignment. So let's go ahead and stick with chapter 3 forecasting and click continue. And now we get to where I have lots of choice about what parts of Smartbook to assign. This is super exciting because with Smartbook 1.0, which I'm using, you have to assign an entire section. But here you can drill down to assign the bits and pieces that you actually cover. So for example, I'm going to click this drop down here, and you can see that in each section, there are separate learning objectives. These are not the same as the textbook chapter learning objectives. These are the learning objectives associated with highlighted portions of the textbook. Somebody like me, a digital faculty consultant, went in and highlighted the parts of the chapter for McGraw-Hill that they felt were most critical, and then wrote a learning objective for each highlighted section and 2 probes or questions minimum about that highlighted section to help students understand that concept. And then you get to choose, do you want to assign it or not? So let's say that let's see, let's say that I don't want to assign this whole elements of a good forecast. So it's been unselected now. But if I wanted to see what learning objectives were covered there, and there was more than one, I could assign one or not the other. And so then let's say that I don't care about teaching the steps in the forecasting process this time around, and I'm not going to teach associative forecasting techniques. So I'm excluding that entire section. Over on the right-hand side, it's showing me how long the assignment is expected to take and how many concepts students have to show that they've mastered by answering questions correctly. Now, this is a guaranteed grade if students keep trying, because all they have to do is get enough concepts. They have to get the concepts correct, and it will just keep serving them questions until they do. So let's say that I'm good with that, but I can also move this slider down, and you can see that it's changing the range of time it will take and reducing the number of concepts that are covered in each of the sections. So even though we'll still cover 3.1 introduction, there would be less highlighting for them to read as you move the slider down. Okay, so introduce how many points I think is the next step. We of course, we don't want to leave it as unnamed chapter. So chapter 3, Smartbook, maybe, whatever you want. Sign a due date to it, and then you can give it anything from 0 to however many points. And I think mine are low stakes assignments. Here's something really interesting about Smartbook, and I hope it holds true universally, or well, maybe that's a little too, maybe like North Americanly that it holds true. 95% of my students do all the Smartbook assignments, no matter how few points I make them worth. Like if they're at least 1 point, I mean, I've had it at 5% of the grade and I've had it at 10% of the grade, it made no difference to the percentage of students who finished all the assignments, because they just see it as easy points. They see it as, this is a no-brainer. I should always do this. So let's click assign. Now, if I had this section connected to my learning management system, next to that assign button would have actually been a deploy button to deploy it to the learning management system as well. But because this is just a standalone and hasn't been connected to Blackboard, then I don't see that. And you can see from the eyeball that this course assignment I just created is now there. That was how quick it was to create that. The other kinds of assignments that we'll take a look at is the homework assignment and then the the application-based activity, which is where you'll find Practice OM. So on the question bank, let's stick with chapter 3, so the first thing that pops up is this menu that lets you choose what chapter you want to assign from. And you have choices here of problems with static and algorithmic. Then there's an additional problem section for chapter 3 with more algorithmic problems. Chapter 3 videos and a static test bank. So this is the true false multiple choice auto-graded questions. If you're giving tests inside Connect, then you can find the test bank there. The Word version, the Word document version of the test bank is also in Instructor resources. So let's go ahead and select chapter 3 algo and static. And then what I can do is I can filter the results by all different things. Let's say that I only want to assign 3.7, 3.8, and 3.11 these three sections. And so when I click on filter results, it's going to show me just the problems related to that. How fast is give me a thumbs up, Amy, if my screen is keeping up with me talking.
Almost. There's like the slightest
Little
of
lag?
lags, but just a
Okay.
little one.
All right. So this orange A tells you that that is an algorithmic problem. So you can see that we have an algorithmic version of 3-1 and a static version of 3-1. And here's a little trick or tip that I learned. If I'm going to do for students to help them know how to solve it before they have to do it for themselves, which I think is always a good idea, because then how do they know without having you show them? I will pick the static version of the problem and go over that, and then assign the algorithmic version of it, and then they'll get different numbers. So it's an easier way for them to not be able to say, you never showed us this. Like, yes, I did. That exact one I showed. All right. So, you've got all these options. You can assign problems to pools or whatever, but let's just go ahead and add these 4 checked questions as individual questions and, move on so that we can see what it will look like from the student side. And so if I'm done with adding questions, if I wanted to see what the questions were before assigning them, that might be helpful. Then I can instead just look at the questions individually, and it will let me click to add these questions as I move through. You're also able to see what resources students will have. Like, for example, is there a video that shows them a walkthrough of this problem? That will be shown to you here as you look at it. You'll see what are the resources that students have. So on this one, you can see what explanation they'll see after they turn in the assignment and what references they have access to. And some of them include video references. Is that true on the Canadian side as well, Amy? Yeah, okay, excellent. All right, so once I'm done, I click Organize Assignment, and it shows me the problems I added. I set the point values that I want them to be. I need to name the assignment, or it'll get upset with me. Chapter 3 homework, and then continue. And then we have a crap storm of policy options that you can set. So of course we start with the due date, and let's just make that the 25th. This is, I have homework assignments options. Sorry, don't use proctoring within this, so that's outside my knowledge base. If you want to allow late submissions, I always have it automatically submit assignments, because that's the kind of teacher I am. You don't get no late work. Then you can choose whether this is a homework, a practice, a quiz, or an exam. So this is where you differentiate the type of assignment that you're setting up, and you get slightly different policy settings for each one. So leaving it on homework, bunches of policy settings. So you can click edit for each of these and explore. It's pretty self-explanatory, but there's help buttons inside there as well. So, for example, you want to allow unlimited attempts, or 1, 2, or 3 attempts. Do you want them to start over? And I always pick start over. And here's why. If it's an algorithmic problem, I want them to have the option to practice. Like, once they submit the assignment and they get to see the feedback on how to solve it, when they redo it again, I want them to have different numbers so that they can prove to themselves that they understand, versus just fixing their previous attempt. And allowing for study attempts means that after the due date passes, students can practice again and again with different numbers if they're algorithmic. And then, this is great. If you save it as default settings, all your homework assignments will have the same settings, so you don't have to keep remembering to set up allow for study attempts, unlimited attempts, etc. And so then we click on review and assign, and that's your last chance before it's assigned. Now, some of you may have multiple sections. You can actually create an assignment in one section and assign it to all the sections. And then, so it's a little bit of a time saver if you're teaching 4 sections of the same class. I tend to lump mine all into the same connect big section, just because I'm teaching online, so I don't need to have them separated. Okay, so that was the homework assignment. You can see it's shown. And then let's take a quick look at Practice OM, which is under application-based activity. So Practice OM, and here's the thing, you can play this for yourself and see how fun it is and how easy the first module is. And then if you're a gamer, like a lot of my students, you might find all of them easy. I had a really tough time because I'm not a gamer, knowing what the heck to do once the first 8 turns were over in the first module and it said, okay, finish the module. And because I was like, what do I do now? The answer is click on everything, right? So click on everything and find out what it says. Anyway, so that was a little detour, but you can see that we have multiple modules and each one is more complex. And then these module 6, these 2 module 6s have different kind of goals for students. So I assign modules 1, 2, and 3. I think those are appropriate in an undergrad introductory class. Module 4 is really difficult, challenging for undergrads, and actually for me as well, because you really need to read the instruction guide and understand how complex this module really is. So if you want to assign module 1, which usually students can finish in less than an hour, 45 minutes, then if you want to play it yourself, you click preview or you click assign. And I always preview every module. I always play through every module so I know what they're getting into and what kinds of lessons I could expect them to learn. So you can make sure that they have to play with a tutorial. And for partial goal scoring, if by default it's set up to have points spread across these various categories, and it's all or nothing. So if you put it on, then they can get partial credit if they got some right, but not others. So, as long as your points add up to 100%, or excuse me, your percentages add up to 100%, you're golden. Click continue. And again, this can be a whole entire webinar. It's on its own. So I'm just, doing this a little bit quickly. Practice OM1 and then the due date, how many points you want it to be worth, and how many assignment attempts they can have. So these are, again, lots of options, which is nice because, it's an experiment when you first start doing this. What works best for your classes and for you and your students? All right, so we now have the 3 assignment types set up, and we can take a look at what it looks like to students.
Tracy, I had
And
a
then
question just about assignment weights that came in, and so
yeah.
I thought this might be a good opportunity because you've got the 3 types made.
Yeah.
Someone was just asking, what's the best balance that you found to have a variance in the marks?
So a variance in the marks of
For the assignment
final
weights.
grades, do you mean for final grades?
I
Or
think so. For the assignment weights, yeah. What's the best balance to have enough variance in the marks? For the simulation specific,
for the simulation. Okay, so for
believe.
practice module 1, I put 100% of it on whether they complete the goal. And then everybody earns full credit. Because that one is really goal-based. You don't get to make many decisions. You don't have control over your reputation score. You don't really have much range in how much revenue you can earn. For modules 2 and 3, I generally will have it like, did you complete the number of contracts you were required, and did you meet the goal? I'll do like a 50-50 split. But I don't know if it's just a glitch or how I've set it up or if I've made a mistake, but I have a module 2, no problem. People are getting full credit. Module 3, I had a little issue where nobody was getting full credit. So I suspect user error on my part and how I set it up. And so again, it's kind of one of those things where I play around with it. And then what happens is you'll always have those type A students who will play they'll play the module 5 times to see how good they can get their score. And then they'll email you and they'll be like, I can't get full points. What am I doing wrong? And that alerts you to the issue. And then I just up everybody's score. Right. So I think, it really, if you want it to be perceived as a competition, that's motivating to some people. And so, splitting the score out among 2 or 3 of those categories and telling them how it's split out so they know what to focus on. Because what gets measured gets done. So if they know a third of the score is going to come from their reputation, then they'll focus on reputation. Does that help?
Yeah, that was perfect. And I think
Okay.
that makes sense that it kind of depends on the module and what's being tested, of how the weights
Yeah.
carry. And then Philippe just
Yeah.
had a note that there are YouTube videos out there, so it would make
Oh,
sense to have
yeah.
more randomness in the grading. And Philippe, that's great feedback, and that's something that I can take back to the people who make
Yeah.
the game. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you, Philippe.
Yeah, and there are some things that change, like there is a little bit of an algorithmic aspect to it, like about which contracts get accepted and whether or not you're going to need to buy capacity at this point in the game, especially as you go into later modules. The early module is just very much a rote playthrough. Everybody should see the same results. So let's take a look at the student view. And in the student view and Connect, as you can see, it is different than what we saw before. If you set things up inside a folder, then they'll see this folder like this one right here. And if you, otherwise, it's just a long list of things that are due. And they have access to the regular ebook here in the left side. Most of my students don't come directly to Connect, just so you know, I have it linked to our learning management system. So they just click the link inside the learning management system and it opens the assignment for them. But if they did come here, this is what they would see. And just real quick, because I can just talk for England. Let's take a quick look at what students see in Smartbook. So it tells them the estimated time it's going to take them to complete. And this estimated duration, you know, is including reading time. But they have a choice. They can start with reading or they can start with questions. And I will tell you, 90% of students are going to start with questions because they're like, well, why not? I can skip reading. So then they have some tutorial functionality built in, and then they're asked a question. And they have a progress bar along the top that shows them how many concepts they've completed of the 40 in this case that they're required to complete. So they've got select all that apply and multiple choice questions and some fill in the blank questions, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many there are, but in any case, in order for students to submit their answers, so which of the following statements about forecasts, they're the basis for virtually all decisions, and accurate forecasts are easy to, let's just pick one that we're pretty sure is wrong. But then we have to submit it by claiming what's my confidence in the answer. Okay. And this is collecting data behind the scenes about your students as well to help them understand themselves as learners. There's some analytics they can access. So then it tells me what the right answer was and the wrong answers and some feedback. Like, for example, this was the other right answer. Forecasts enable managers to plan for the future. And the one that I picked here was incorrect because, right? And then you'd go on to the next question and they won't see this come back up again for a while. So this is designed for interleaving concepts. So they'll cover pieces of the book. Now, if you get too many wrong in a row, it makes you read. Sorry, I think that's funny. And so reading here, if they click that, it actually takes them to the section of the book, but not the right chapter or paragraph. So it takes them to the start of the section that has the right answer in it. And so again, this is a way to encourage them to actually read all of the highlighted stuff. And you can see not everything is highlighted. Okay, so this is Smartbook. It's highlighting the textbook and asking questions about the highlighted parts, and they need to get X amount correct, right? And so if it's okay, let's just go ahead and switch to my live class. And we'll take a look there because, it's populated with data. So I'll go to my courses and then scroll and scroll and scroll. Okay, so this is my live class, and it's going to have student analytics visible right away in it. And you can see I have everything in modules. So it's called Learn Smart and Smartbook in the Smartbook 1.0. And I'm looking forward to that not being confusing for people. As you can see, my section has a 96% average across the 9 assignments that they've had so far this semester. So I can see if anything's red, I can just hover over it and it'll tell me kind of what's going on there. So that's analytics. And then there was really a lot of interest in student and instructor resources, right, Amy? Okay. So regardless of whether you're in the new edition or the old edition, up at the top where it says library is how you get to the instructor resources. And this is going to take you um, to an instructor resource page where you have access to the PowerPoint slides, the test bank, videos, Excel templates, just all kinds of resources, and look, a link to OM in the news, a link to the image bank if you want to pull images into your PowerPoint slides, and so on. And then, of course, there's student resources. Practice operations student manual is here, and students can get to this stuff as well. So that's where you'd find the instructor resources. Now, Amy and I talked about this. There's enough of a difference between what you see on your side in Canada and my side that we're not going to go into any of these in detail.
Yeah, just some flow differences. So we didn't want to get, we wanted it to be more similar to what you would see with the
Right.
Canadian edition of Stevenson. But
Right.
those are all in all of our OM titles. You're going to see solutions manual, Excel documents, very same in everything, because we want everyone to have as many resources as possible.
Right. What else do I need to show from here, or like what did I completely forget because I got excited about?
No, I think for just cognition of time, we did have a question about assignment build. I think it was when you were at the end of creating your algo assignment. It said that the question was, what does the intelligence system option at the end of the homework assignment do? Do you remember seeing that?
I oh, that is the nearest I can tell is if you have special characters on words, like a grave, an accent, whatever, it will show those to students. I honestly have not ever figured out what that does. I see it sometimes and not other times. And so I always enable it because I want everything enabled for students that I can. And as far as I've been able to tell, that is it's a type of font choice it's going to make. But I could be wrong.
No, we can definitely take that away and
Yeah.
definitely make sure we have the exact answer for you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I thought that was
yeah.
something like that for sure.
Right. Okay, so I completely failed in my promise to leave plenty of time for asking questions, because I misjudged how much time I would spend like talking about Smartbook and all the others. And so what I thought I'd do is just head back to the slides. Let's see if I can do this. And um, a quick summary is that because we can do instant feedback for students on their homework, they don't have to wait for me to grade. Because they can have more practice at problems, that helps them to build better critical thinking skills. And a lot of my students are first generation students who tell me they'd never even read a textbook until they used Smartbook. So we're helping them improve reading comprehension and retention with those questions, which the ability to read technical content is really important as a life skill. That's kind of how Connect educational technology tools in general, because they can automate grading and let you assign more. But that's how Connect has helped me to overcome some challenges. And then in terms of career readiness for practice operations, just I'm sharing some quotes from my students. The gist is that it gives them a holistic view of how everything fits together, not just within operations, because we teach inventory management separately from forecasting, separately from quality control, separately from et cetera. So they see how those things fit together within the factory setting, but they also have modules that show them how they're working with marketing and HR. And so they see how interconnected everything is. And they also can connect it to their experience. If they worked in a factory and they never knew why things were done the way they were, some of them have had light bulb moments, which has been really awesome for everything. Really, I mean, it's great when they say, I loved your class, and it's because they gained an understanding of how things work, and they can carry that with them into interviews for jobs into working on teams and companies where they understand the interconnected nature. So that's, really helpful for them to be more, I say sophisticated, I guess, sophisticated employees and business owners. So, and that's it. And again, apologies for taking, not leaving that time at the end. Although, Amy, if there's,
We
I'll
do.
turn it over to you.
We do. We have 5 more minutes that we could definitely. This is why we have things spaced the way they do. So don't feel that you have to leave, attendees. One thing I was going to note was that those quotes that you just showed us was because one of the things in your course is that students have to write written responses to their
Right.
experience in practice operations. And I
Right.
remember when you told me, I just thought that was a really powerful way to have students reflect upon their learning in
Yeah.
a weirder scenario, like a simulation, which they might not have experience with. But then
Right.
for you as a facilitator of the course, get that instant feedback of what's working, what's not. And I just thought
Absolutely.
that was really powerful as well.
Yeah, it's a game right up until they have to reflect on it.
Yeah.
And once they have to reflect on it, now they're connecting it to course concepts and to their lived experiences. So, yeah, I'm happy to stick around, like, for any questions, and you
Yeah,
all
so
for
I've got
taking
some
the time with
comments.
us.
So we've got a comment just saying that Smartbook is the most powerful adaptive learning system that this individual has seen, and they've learned a
Awesome.
lot, which is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
We have a question from Jackie Shemko, who is I'm a big fan of. Do your students play practice operations as individuals or as in teams?
In individuals, yeah. Yeah, it's particularly helpful for online environments, right?
It's true. But Jackie, I have heard of programs using it in different ways where sometimes they have it played through as teams. I think they're still individually done because of the way the students access it through practice operations, but they
Mhm.
collaborate together on what the best plan
Decision
is.
making. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think they used to even do it in person with people talking to each other.
Oh, I know that students do that.
Weird.
They do collaborate on it,
I can't. The idea of even being in a room with other people, I can't imagine. So that's amazing.
Yeah, we all have, I can't even remember the word. Is it agoraphobia now? Induced agoraphobia or whatever, where you're afraid to leave your home or be around people.
Yep. Rightfully so. Um, if we have any other questions, feel free to put them in. I'm going to close things off, I think, in 2 minutes at 10 to the hour. So feel free to jump in with any of your questions. And I hope I'm doing a good job expressing them for you. And just while I wait, I just want to say, just to remind everyone that McGraw-Hill is here for you. At this moment, we are facing so many unknowns in the world. And so just as a trusted partner, we just want to make sure that you know that we're here to help you build out your courses, find the right resources, answer any questions. The webinar link for this will be available, as I said, in a few days. It'll appear on our website where you can watch it back, as well as the slide deck. So yeah, just thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And I don't think there's any more questions. I'm getting some thanks, which I appreciate. And
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Tracy, for your time today and showing us your course.
Absolutely.
That was amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for having me. And it's always a pleasure to talk with anybody from Canada, not to stereotype, but the stereotype has always held true. So it's really, really a privilege to get to talk with you all.
Thank you so, so much. Yeah, thank you, Howard. Thank you, Sam. So many of my favorite people in the chat today. I love it. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm going to close out and I hope you all have a one. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, I agree. Tracy students are very lucky.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much for your expertise. And thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye for now.